Hey, good evening. Good evening. Oh, now it's on. Good evening. That's 3 good evenings for you. So officially, good evening. Hey, I am Bob McBride, Superintendent of Lockport Township High School District 205. And so glad that you're here with us tonight. It becomes a little bit, especially for seniors, it's like award season, right? Where, you've got the Golden Globes, the Oscars, the Emmys, the Grammys, yada, yada, yada in the spring. And I want to take care, before we open up our regular session of our board meeting. Our board was meeting in closed session. In a few minutes, our board president, Mrs. Ann Lopez-Caniva, will open up the meeting to regular session. Just welcome you, first and foremost. Tell you a little bit about the logistics. I think these are very important things when the entire community bears witness to the highest accomplishments of our students. In this case, it's state accomplishments. The Illinois Student Assistance Commission saying these are some of the best students in the state of Illinois this year. And then also IHSA saying these are some of the top drama and group interpretation performers of the entire year. Illinois is a highly competitive state, very hard to reach those accolades. So whenever our students do, our board has the practice of congratulating them. The students will come down. We have 2 groups, group interpretation and then Illinois Student Assistance Commission. And what we'd ask you to do is just hold your applause until both groups, group interpretation comes through, then all of our Illinois State Scholars come through as well, and then we can give them a grand round of applause. The students will come through, they'll sit in the back, strategically placed closest to the cookies. Good place to be, right? Last time we had wrestling and we had Special Olympics basketball, and we got in the way, we inadvertently got between athletes and cookies. Not a good thing. It was not a good seed. And we do have some refreshments at the end. It gives board members an opportunity just to kind of meet and greet with you back by the Port of Pride store display, to say hello and wish you well. And thank you on behalf of the board. You're your children's original teachers. So this is as much as your accomplishment at the end of their senior year and their graduation as anything. We always are trying to do our homework here at school. We know you're doing your homework at home as parents. So to kick things off, would you please rise with me? We have a very small American flag. We need a bigger one, right? Let's just start this with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Ann Lopez-Caniva.
Thank you, Dr. McBride. All right, do I have a motion to reconvene the regular meeting?
I'll second it.
All right, it's been motioned by Mr. Ives and second by Mr. Lewandowski. Roll call.
Yes.
Yes. All right, now I'm going to pass this on then to Mr. John Greenham.
Good evening and welcome to Lockport Township High School East Campus. We are excited this evening to honor and recognize 2 different groups of students. We have our all-state group interpretation students, and then we also have our Illinois State Scholars, as Dr. McBride alluded to. I would like to introduce Mr. Brian Lessner, who will first do the all-state group interpretation resolutions.
Resolution recognizing Graham Carlson, Kira DeNormandie, Emma Forbes, Nora Gologli, Abigail Obradovic for receiving the title of All-State Cast in the performance of LTHS Group Interpretation, Big Business by Doria Pearson and Mark Reed-Robel, adapted for the stage by Dr. Laura Gilbert. Whereas Graham Carlson, Kira DeNormandie, Emma Forbes, Nora Gologli, and Abigail Obradovic have achieved this all-state honor by competing in the IHSA State Drama and Group Interpretation Tournament on March 26, 2022 at Oak Lawn Community High School. And whereas Graham Carlson, Kira DeNormandie, Emma Forbes, Nora Gologly, and Abigail Obradovic have brought honor and distinction to themselves, their family, school, and community by achieving this respected status. Now therefore be resolved by the Board of Education of Lockport Township High School, District 205, Will County, Illinois, that this resolution was adopted on this 25th day of April, 2022. Congratulations.
We are pleased to introduce and recognize LTHS students who have been named an Illinois State Scholar. Just 1 second, okay? This year, 120 LTHS students have been designated a 2022 Illinois State Scholar by the Illinois Student Assistance Commission. This resolution is recognizing the accomplishments of the Illinois State Scholars from the class of 2022. Whereas the following students have excelled in state of Illinois academic competition, have been named Illinois State Scholars by the Illinois Student Assistance Commission, and thereby have brought honor and distinction to themselves, their families, school, and communities. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of Lockport Township High School, District 205, Will County, Illinois, that the following students from the class of 2022 are hereby recognized for their outstanding academic achievement in the Illinois State Scholars Competition. Jory Bilek, Allison Bobeck, Haley Bogdan, James Calvert, Iris Cazares. Can you help me on that? Michaela Coquine. Andrew Crosby. Gabriel Zacco. Anna Demina. Lucas Dunlap. Ryan Durbin. Ryan Dykstra. Emma Erickson. Alex Farkash. Gabriella Fedor. Megan Fleming. Nolan Foster. Emily Gadd. Caden Gallagher. Dominic Gasinica. Zoe Halatek. Help me out. Jensmianka. Tyler Jensmianka. Brandon Kemp. Kofira. Hannah Kofira. Gabriella Lewis. Emma Mackin. Sophia Marcial. Mattis Mikuxis. Monica Mikuxis. Joshua Malatic. Is it Miller? Mueller. Jessica Mueller. Max Mueller. Emily O'Boyle. Alyssa Olson. Remind me. Peugeot. Lucas Peugeot. Dennis Papafatopoulos. Parikh. Brenda Parikh. Kennedy Pitchford. Morena Ramos. Isabella Rarick. Rubar. Riley Rubar. Benjamin Ryan. John Ryan. Nathan Ribicki. Dylan Schmutzler. Madeline Sanford. Is it Column? Column. Logan Column. Sheik. Ronald Sheik. Kara Shields. Benjamin Staley. Michael Stranosky. It's Kara. Kara Strickland. Charlotte Vollmer. Zasek. Trevor Zasek. Kyra DeNormandy. Emma Forbes. Remind me. Galogly, it is the G. Nora Galogly. Obradovic. Abigail Obradovic. Congratulations to all of our students.
Thank you, Mr. Union. All right. Do I have a motion to accept the resolutions as presented? All right, it's been motioned by Mr. Eisen, second by Dr. Shaw. All in favor? All right. On behalf of the Board of Education, congratulations to all of their students. We are very proud of you, and I know you accomplished so much. And I also extend our congratulations to the parents, because I know that you've done so much for them and all the sacrifices you've done just to bring them here. But thank you so much. And like I said, congratulations to all of you. And I believe we do owe a standing ovation to these students. And as Dr. McBride said, there are refreshments back there along with some cookies, and we will take a 5-minute recess, so in case if our board members wish to congratulate our students and our parents.
Okay, paper copy?
To student report, student government.
Hello. Hello. Just to reintroduce ourselves, my name's Anna and I'm a junior.
I'm Javi, and I'm a junior as well.
Our first topic was prom. It's coming up this Saturday and everyone is super excited about it. That's all people have been talking about for probably the last month now, so people are definitely very excited for that and it should be a really good turnout.
The next thing we wanted to talk about was twerp. Right now, student government has been working on promoting the event and figuring out dress-up days for the week. I know a lot of people, including myself, are really excited to go to this event and for it to be outside.
And then our last topic we wanted to talk about was student mental health. This year has been a hard year for everyone. Other than seniors, no one else has really had a full high school year normally. And during the pandemic, many students lack social skills, but they're definitely improving this year being in school full time. Personally, the workload this year and balancing grades, sports, clubs, and a job is very overwhelming, but finding motivation through things you enjoy, like friends and spending time with your family, has definitely helped me accomplish the goals that I wanted to do this year.
For me, I think mental health is a really important topic to talk about. I know a lot of students, including myself this year, have been having a hard time balancing outside school life and inside school life, and sometimes that can be stressful. Recently, this year in January, I know they added mental health days for students, and I found that very helpful for myself in my life whenever I needed to take a day off to just prioritize my mental health.
Also, Wednesdays in PE, we have SEL days, so social emotional learning. And it's definitely helped because it's just like a 30-minute period where you get to do meditation or box breathing. And that definitely helps having that time built into school because sometimes our schedules outside of school are so chaotic that it's there's not a set time to do that. So definitely having that time in school is definitely very helpful.
And that's all we want to talk about today. Do you guys have any questions?
Thank you.
Of course.
Thanks for being
Bye.
here. Yeah, well done. Bless you.
Bless you.
I know I'm getting allergies this time of year too.
All right. All right, next we have our JJC report, Dr. Judy Mitchell and Ms. Maureen Broderick.
Yeah, good to see you.
Welcome.
Thanks
Welcome
for
to
joining
welcome
us.
to y'all too.
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, and that is mainly, that's mainly for the live stream.
Then we'll just speak loud, right?
Yeah,
That's a good
yeah,
idea.
yeah.
All right. Well, Dr. Mitchell and I are very excited to be here. I'm Maureen Broderick, the Vice Chair of our board. And the goal of this meeting is an introduction to create a connection with the Lockport School Board and to strengthen your awareness of what JJC and the services we have that we offer. We want you to join us as ambassadors of the college and to consider us as the guide to your students towards college opportunities. We also want to know what the needs are and to be a good partner in education, whether that's in dual credit space or other college level supporting and programming. JJC trustees want to strengthen their relationship with other school board officials as well as increase the community engagement. And I'm going to give you some general ideas of what JJC is so that everybody knows what Joliet Junior College stands for. We are the nation's very first community college. That should stand out to everyone. We're not the oldest, we're the first, because we like to say first. The district straddles 7 counties, covering over 1,442 square miles area, and serves a population of nearly 210,000 households and about 735,000 students. JJC has 180 plus degrees and certificate programs with daytime, evening, weekend, and online courses to offer. JJC offers courses are designed to prepare students for college, transfer for a 4-year institution, or step right into the workforce. As I stated, we are 1,442 square miles. Population is 735,000. Annual credit, non-credit enrollment for 2022 was 20,995. Spring enrollment for 2022 is 11,411. Fall of 2021 was 11,551. And of course, we always like the opportunity to get more students in to increase our enrollment. Dr. Mitchell?
Okay. So it's my opportunity to share some of the new programs that we have that we're offering, and it was wonderful, and congratulations to all of your honor students this evening. The line was just amazing, so that just speaks so highly for, for the Lockport High School system. So JJC is very proud to recognize our University Transfer and Partnership Center, which is located at the Romeoville campus, just minutes away from Lockport. With the launch of this program, students can complete a bachelor's degree and some master's degree while staying at the JJC Romeoville campus. Bless you. I hope that's not something in this room. It's like everything's. Example partnerships include Southern Illinois University and Governor State University, so we encourage all of our parents to check our website for more details. We also launched the new medical assisting program. Employment of medical assistants is projected to grow by 29% from 2016 to 2026, and the second cohort is close to completing their degree. Under the supervision of a licensed medical professional, medical assisting duties may preparing patients and assisting in examinations, performing tests, managing medical records, performing administrative tasks, using electronic medical records, all to enter orders, educating and advocating for our patients. We are also excited about launching the new respiratory therapy program in the fall of 2022. Allied health programming continues to grow, and we heard our students talk about not only the health professions but mental health, all of these areas what we continue to invest in. The college's cybersecurity program will double its capacity and be housed at the Romeoville campus starting this fall. And as far as student programs, we created a dedicated student mental health and wellness program team with increased resources for confidential services, advocacy for mental health needs and concerns, and to promote healthy lifestyle behaviors and emotional well-being. In July of 2021, we launched the Center for Multicultural Access and Student Success to support a holistic student success program. This team supports minority students, first-generation students, undocumented students, and many more. And finally, with Lockport High School and dual credit, during the 2022 spring season, there are 353 enrolled dual credit students from Lockport. Classes offered are construction fundamentals, automotive fundamentals, intro to culinary arts, 2D CAD, rhetoric, personal finance, and general psychology. And we thank you for your partnership.
And to share about student support. Everybody's always asking about finances, and especially in today's tough economic situations with inflation. Just to know, from 2021 to 2022, in just 1 year, the JJC Foundation awarded over $800,000 in scholarships to our students. That's available to any of the students that want to come. There's lots of scholarships on our website. There has been a 225% increase in emergency funding support to the students from 21 to 22, from $21,600 to over $70,000. This was to enable the students if they needed any type of remote internet connections, iPads, food sources, babysitting sources. Our foundation was there to make sure that our students could continue their education, and our foundation has been phenomenal in the support. And both Dr. Mitchell and I would like to thank you for this opportunity of being here tonight with you to present about JJC. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask either of us.
I don't have a question, just maybe a comment, something for the board. I had the pleasure of sitting in a meeting with Dr. Mitchell with Mayor Steve Straight and trying to find a use for the old Chevron Texaco property, which the city now owns, and Mayor Straight's vision to make that a partnership center, sort of makerspace connection with JJC. I like that you said, the nation's oldest, or the nation's first. Excuse me, I've got to get
We
the
are the
nomenclature.
first.
Nation's
We're not the oldest.
first.
We don't want to
Right,
sound
you're
old.
First, yeah, much better.
We're initiators.
Yeah, and many of those students that went through the line tonight are aware and are going to JJC. So your product is very clear.
What is the percentage of our students that graduate and go to JJC? Does anyone know?
Then I'm not sure, we can check.
It's a
that.
high percentage, Mr. Navarro.
It is.
It's probably our top sender with a really strong community college system right in your own backyard. I'd have to get that to you as a follow-up, an exact percentage. We do something called National Clearinghouse that keeps track of that. But it's the top sender that we send to.
Right, and if we can create this partnership in downtown Lockport, that will be phenomenal to
Right.
support the students.
Right.
And just for the public and for the board, just to remind you what dual credit is. Dual credit is a student is enrolled here in a course with a qualified instructor, earning credit here in Lockport Township, but also at JJC. And the reason why that's so important is community colleges across Illinois worked really hard on our students' behalf a few years ago to get that credit accepted at any public university in the state of Illinois. So if you go to the University of Illinois, you earn that JJC credit, you can take that right to Champaign with you or to JJC. So
Right.
it's an economic boom for our families.
Oh, it's really a basic economic situation that it helps you and your student financially get through school faster. Dual credit offers so much, just like A&P courses do too. Sometimes you hear of students that are coming in that are already through their first semester because of the credits they've earned through A&P and dual credit. So it's something for everyone to be aware of and to make parents aware of, because financially right now people are strapped. What's a good source? A community college.
And ending up in a college situation with a taste of what a college class is like.
Absolutely.
Doing it before you go to college is one of the best ways.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Rivera.
Downtown Juliet, you got your City Center.
City Center campus?
Yes.
We have our world-renowned culinary arts program, which is just amazing. If you have an opportunity to stop by Thrive or Savor, we're always advertising for them, as well as housing all of our workforce services, adult education, various programs. And we're building, a transfer or a 2-year degree downtown as well to make it convenient for our local community members.
Thank you. Thank you. I personally know JJC because that's my alumni. After here, I left here. I went there for 2 years, got my degree,
that's
and then
good.
transferred on. But yes, I can say it was financially very affordable for my parents, at that point in time. But it was, and I had a great experience there. I really did. Everyone was very helpful. But I can say I'm sure it's much more now today than it was in my time. But yes, but thank
Well,
you.
in JJC, I was a first-generation college graduate, and so JJC is where I started, and here I am 25 years later, very proud 9th president of the college.
And anytime you want to come out to tour the campus, let us know, because the campus is like a university campus.
It is.
Really
It is
beautiful.
glowing with so much progression that's happened over the last 10 to 15 years. It's not like the days when we used to call it JUCO. It's Joliet Junior College.
Yeah.
JJC,
Well said.
right.
Also,
I will also say that before I went to Loyola, I did spend, I think, 2 years at JJC just to be able to. I remember being in like the cyber cafe, just playing with stuff. The cyber cafe was really nice.
Right.
It's one of my favorite things.
Right. It's a great way to explore opportunities,
Yeah.
especially when you're undecided.
The free soup that they do.
Food is
For every
always an
student
attractor
budget.
for our
Yes.
students, regardless. So, well, thank you again very much. Thank you for your partnership.
We are looking forward for those, continuing our partnership with you and making sure we grow. Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks
We
so much.
enjoyed
Have a
it.
great evening.
Thank you.
AFT report.
Basically, the council is just wrapping up the school year, and a couple dates and things I've already said have existed. We have our May 5th, where we have postponed the holiday celebration, and we're looking forward to it, a little bit of something to sneak in there. And we're looking forward to celebrating our retirees on May 25th. And then our current executive board and representative group is also closing up their 2-year term. So elections for the new term will take place on May 9th. I will not be running for re-election, so at our next school board meeting, I will have the pleasure of introducing whoever our next president will be. And then finally, I just wanted to mention that Teacher Appreciation Week is next week, and so we recognize a lot of groups and a lot of fantastic things that are taking place. And then I just wanted to make sure that I personally recognize the teachers and support staff of this district. And I was kind of chuckling when JJC was talking about dual credit, because every time the word dual credit comes in, that's one teacher making that work, or 2 teachers that are making sure that that works. And so just in the background, there's so many great things that take place, but the manpower is happening on that level. And so I know that I represent a superior group of people, and I just wanted to take the moment to just represent those people. And so in reality, it is Educator Appreciation Week next week, and then anyone in the educational system could probably use some appreciation. I think we've been through some rough times, and every group's been working in ways they've never worked before, including you. And so as board members, you volunteer your time, and really, thank you. You're appreciated. So, thank you.
We have the Iasb Governing Board report.
I have nothing that I know of going on. Is there anything, Dr. Smith?
You know, probably the only thing in the state that's going on, I sent board members, COSPA is the new IASB, is a founding member with, I think it's 25 other states who have left the National School Board Association and founded COSPA, and I apologize, it's the Coalition of School Boards of, so that's I remember the acronym, but I don't remember what each one stands for. But it's a new organization, and really they send out things through IASB just saying, look for more in terms of, a national conference, resources, things like that.
It's not official yet. It's supposed to be doing an introduction or
Right.
kickoff or something soon.
Mm-hmm.
Watch your email.
Thank you. All right, Foundation Board report.
Good evening. So I'm happy to report that the foundation has chosen their new mission statement. The other one was quite lengthy. So the mission statement for the foundation is, the mission of the LTHS 205 Foundation is to enrich the lives of all staff, students, and community members through extraordinary learning experiences and opportunities anchored in equity and inclusion. So you'll see that kind of transition and wash through the things that we have posted on the foundation website. It'll get indoctrinated into the new policies and things like that, and then upcoming few meetings that we have before the fiscal year wraps up in June. So I hope to have all that ready to go. So when we start our new fiscal year, it'll be as it should be. Just a couple of things that have been that are on the docket. May 18th at 7 p.m. is awards night. The foundation takes place in that, and we award. We'll be awarding. When I totaled it up, the foundation helps find about $75,000 for LTHS students. So we're very proud of that, and hope that you guys will attend. The 2022 Spring Maroon Apple Award nominations are out. Staff members can nominate each other until about mid-May, and then we'll present that at the end of the year to a staff member. And another reminder that the golf outing is coming up June 22nd. And I wanted to just highlight, we had a couple new things that we're going to do. There will be a chance, you can do a 50-foot putt for a chance to win $50,000. So we're excited about that, and the community is coming around us in a nice way. We're getting a lot of good responses, so I'm excited. And then finally, in the fall, the foundation is hoping to partner with Young Hearts for Life and bring that program here to LTHS. So we are starting that off. The board is excited to do something that will touch all students and branch out what we are participating in. So I'm very excited about that. Our next meeting is May 3rd in the Porter Room at 7 o'clock. Any questions?
What's Young Hearts for Life?
Young Hearts for Life provides free EKGs to students. So they would come in to the building and we'd be looking for a significant amount of community involvement to allow kids to have that, because most of the time you don't think of a student needing that kind of procedure, but yet we still see in the news that children die suddenly from cardiac issues, so that would help alleviate that risk for some of our students.
Yeah, I'm just having a lot of experience with Young Hearts for Life. It's a process I feel somewhat passionately about, because a simple EKG, generally not part of a pediatric exam or recommended as a pediatric exam, can detect is something that oftentimes goes undetectable and oftentimes adolescents grow out of, but under certain conditions can lead to what's called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, which is sudden cardiac arrest. So if you savvy enough, you'll hear of an athlete, you'll hear of some adolescent high school person who has sudden cardiac arrest and no one can explain why. In a population our size, our district, I would guess with Young Hearts for Life, we'll detect about 30 to 35 students who need some follow-on, and probably 5 to 7, if numbers bear out, need a surgical intervention that they didn't know they needed. So providing that free screening to students, like Angela said, it's the foundation touching every student, and obviously it's not required. It's something that you opt into. A student would say, I'd like to do this, and it would take place during their PE classes. We do need to make it work the way the Young Hearts for Life, part of providing it for free is we would need about 120 parent volunteers. So it's really a way for parents to get involved in something that literally saves lives.
Can you send the golf flyer out to the board members?
I can. Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Happy to. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, legislative report.
All right, Springfield continues to be a very, very busy place, and lots getting done. Some of the bills that we're following are starting to move to vote on the House or the Senate floor. The House and Senate did recess April 9th, 10th. They finished up at about 6 a.m. on April 10th. I think most of the headlines for schools in terms of what came across the finish line of that regular session all were in the area of school finance. Probably the most important and consequential is for the past 2 years, state government has made a promise to fulfill its evidence-based funding. I've seen in my career many different ways of funding schools. In my humble opinion, I think evidence-based funding is probably the most robust. And so the fact that the legislator is going to fully fund schools means quite a bit. We don't heavily rely as a district on state funding, but with 85% of our tax revenue coming from local property owners here, every bit counts. So the state fulfilling its responsibility makes a difference. It makes a difference in terms of the total levy for our community. So it was good to see that. Also embedded in there are 2 Senate bills right now. One is property tax relief in Illinois. Also a property tax study in St. Clair, Lake, Will included in that. Madison, Rock Island, and DuPage counties. So also in that legislation. There's also a Senate bill, 157, looking at individual tax breaks, which would be a one-time increase in property tax credit in the coming years. So for property owners, increasing that tax credit that you can take with your Illinois taxes. Doing some other things about classroom materials that educators purchase as well, and freezing the gas tax for the next 6 months. So almost everything was on funding and taxation that I think was significant for schools. Any questions?
Move on to public comments. All right. A designated portion of the board meeting is set aside to hear public comments. A person wishing to speak must sign in and provide all information requested on the sign-in sheet, including the agenda item they will be addressing. The board president will call speakers up by name, announcing their time to comment. A time limit of 5 minutes per speaker per agenda topic will be imposed. The purpose of requesting such information on the sign-in sheet is to obtain the correct spelling of the name of the speaker and contact information, which will be used for any necessary board follow-up. And this time we have a Miss Reagan Pace. Yes, Veronica, can you take that time for me? Thank you.
I don't know if anyone else in this room has ever noticed this, but it's very rare to find content warnings on books. So rare that they really only exist in the young adult fiction section, which tends to have things like fantasy books. And even the warning labels that are out there mostly contain things that say not suitable for young readers. The book labels that exist more closely relate to music album advisories that just say parental advisory, explicit content. It's very vague. They're not like movie ratings where it explains viewer discretion. It contains things like nudity, strong language, violence, etc. The point of this is that you have a lot of books in your library that contain some really heinous things that I wouldn't want to consume. And to show you some of those things, I have a few books listed here. Some are pretty well known and some are not so much. But all of these books are in your database for your East Campus library. 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher contains themes of sexual assault, suicide, and bullying. As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner contains rape, sexual assault, and sexual abuse of children. Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Septis contains sexual assault, forced prostitution, graphic displays of corpses, drug use, alcohol use, and gun violence. Insurgent by Veronica Roth contains alcohol use, non-consensual drugging, murder, torture, and gun violence. In what I believe was the February 28th meeting, you mentioned that there's going to be a policy on acknowledging pronouns for students to avoid triggering them. My assumption then would be to say that you think language is powerful. You clearly believe that words hold the power to hurt people. So then if you believe that words hold the power to trigger, you would be taking steps to avoid allowing students to consume unsavory things without their knowledge. I'm going to be honest, 8 months ago, if you would have told me that books should contain content warnings, I probably wouldn't have listened. But I read a book that had content that I was not prepared for. If I had known what was in this book before I picked it up, I wouldn't have chosen that kind of book. I don't think that that kind of book has any place in my home, in my hands, in a school, or a young adult section of a bookstore. There's an obvious correlation, many studies have shown it, between the content you consume and the actions you end up taking. A lot of people like to blame school shootings on violent video games, but don't want to let books or movies that contain gun violence, torture, murder, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, strong language, violence, sexual violence, or anything of the sort, they don't want to let those medias take blame as well. Is the written word not as powerful or influential as pictures on a screen? According to RAIN.com, 1 in 9 girls under the age of 18 has been the victim of sexual assault or sexual abuse from an adult. That's around 11%. So if the statistics worked out perfectly, out of 4,000 students, that would mean LTHS has 444 female victims. Even if that number is wildly disproportionate, I would say it's safe to say there are at least 40. As a school, you all have a responsibility to keep these kids safe, not limited to physical safety. If a pronoun policy is put into place, shouldn't someone look into a way to label the book so that you don't actually accidentally trigger an episode of PTSD for someone who has survived abuse? But as a school for minors, your responsibility automatically doubles, and the school needs to take responsibility for the content that it gives students access to. I don't think books containing sexual assault, especially that of minors, have any place in a school. But if a case is made for them having a place, I think they should be clearly outlined so that readers know what they're getting into. So bottom line, if words are so important to you and you want to keep kids safe from the power of words and their negative effects, don't just limit it to misgendering. There are many young females here that know all too well the traumas of life. By letting this harmful, upsetting content go unchecked, responsibility needs to be taken for the real episodes that it causes. When a teacher misgenders a student, it's their responsibility. But when the school allows hundreds of books to be put into the library for just anyone to access, that responsibility is on a much larger scale and affects way more students. Your priority shouldn't marginalize one struggle to another, especially when over 11% of women under 18 experience sexual assault or abuse, and only 0.002 to 0.003% of women under 18 experience gender dysphoria. If comfort is really your goal, you would aim to comfort the larger audience, but you don't. So either it's all performative and you don't actually care about anyone's comfort, or you don't care about everybody's comfort and you are choosing who is more important and more deserving of that comfort.
Right, and Miss Tammy Hayes.
Hello, I am here, I'm here again to, I've been here before for public comment, and I'm here basically to make a comment about public comment. When someone comes forth with public comment, they're usually coming forth because they've already discussed what they're gonna discuss with their neighbors, their friends, their kids' parents, their kids' friends' parents. And I feel, although being reached out by a school board member or Dr. McBride personally and privately via email or phone call is of course a response and appreciated, I don't know if it is the most transparent way for us to handle public comment. It's clear that in this day and age, public comment means a lot. People are coming to school board meetings because they want answers, and I think the public want answers. I'm sure that you videotape it for policy procedures and so that people who can't be here can see it. I think that they'd also like to hear the comments regarding the things that public has brought forth. I've glanced over the Open Meetings Act. I don't see anything in there that stops board members from taking comment and or responding to comments that are made. Every time a student comes, every time staff comes or a foundation comes to present something to the board, they always ask, do you have a comment? Do you have a question? So I just think that maybe in the future, or as soon as you can, the idea of a public comment, open forum type thing could be something that could be worked into it. As it's been said many times before, everybody's an elected official. The taxpayers want to know the answers to some of these questions, even if they can't make the time to come here and ask. So I just wanted to put that into the record that some type of town hall or open forum would be appreciated by many people. Thank you.
Mr. T. Brody.
Hello. All right, so I'm back in regards to the TRO from the 4th. And let me read, we had a FOIA request that came to the board. In regards, right here, on April 6th, per the Freedom of Information Act, can you please provide me with a copy of the minutes where the LTHS board members approved joining the appeal to the 4th District in regards to the appellate court in this TRO case? On April 6th, on April 13th, Superintendent McBride responded on behalf of the board, I'm assuming. In regards to your FOIA request dated April 6th, Lockport Township High School District 205 has no responsive records in regards to you guys joining the appeal. So, you know, it just, something just doesn't sound right. So I went back to an email that Superintendent McBride sent me on March 29th. And it says, good afternoon, Jay. Attorneys working with CLIC, which is the insurance company that hired the attorneys for you guys, did consult with the board and administrative representatives from their client schools after the temporary restraining order was issued on February 4th. And then he goes into attorney-client privilege, which I really don't think that holds in this matter. But despite that, so on February 4th, the TRO was issued. On February 7th, 205 appealed it. Now, while all other school boards throughout Illinois were having special board meetings, District 205 never did to see how they were going to proceed. And my question is, if the attorneys working with CLIC consulted with the board and the administration, at a certain point, someone had to say, you join the appeal. And I'm asking the board, is this the procedure when it comes to legal matters? Do we have non-official meetings? Do we just consult and decide to move forward with legal matters? I mean, we don't have anything official as to who voted how or whose opinions were, or we're only a couple of board members, you know, maybe consulted regarding this issue, and maybe all the board members weren't. I'm trying to figure out, and it just doesn't sit well as to where's the transparency that a board should pride itself on when it comes to the community. The administration or the administrative representatives of the school district were consulted on it, but the board never took a vote on whether they should appeal a court case. That something just, you know, I guess, I don't know, maybe call me old-fashioned, but when it comes to legal matters, I'm thinking that's kind of a big deal. I kind of think that the board should be voting on stuff like that. And if this is procedure on how you guys move forward with legal matters, I mean, what else are we as a community missing? Are we missing anything else? Is this what we do? We make phone calls maybe to board members and kind of get a feel for it. And ultimately, the insurance company or the lawyer, they don't have any standing on this. So someone's got to tell them, well, yeah, we're going to join an appeal. So, you know, we'll continue to try and dig and find out, or you guys could just kind of be forthcoming as to how you join the appeal. That would also be nice. Although I will say something, I do agree with the EKGs, but why didn't we do that sooner? Why was that never offered sooner? You know, it's kind of wild is that we're going to start giving the kids EKGs now, while among young teenage boys, especially, myocarditis is on a rise. It's just weird how it's just happening all of a sudden. But I will agree with you. I think it's a good thing that you're doing it. I mean, I will agree with you on that for sure, Bob. No doubt about it. I think it's something that's necessary. But again, coincidence, not a big fan of it. I really don't believe in it. Thank you.
Next, we have a Mr. Russ Simmons or Simons. Simmons.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for letting me speak to you tonight. I'm the latest male, pale, and stale guy to come and talk and fix education in 5 minutes or less, so I'll get right to it. Actually, I'm your biggest, probably one of your most loyal customers. I have 6 kids, ages 33 to 14, 4 that have made it in and out of the school, and I still have a remaining freshman and a junior. And I just wanted to share my perspective over really it's a quarter century I've had somebody pretty much here at all times. So my top half, my first 3, I can't say enough about how the school handled them. I sent them a gifted student, an average student, and a student who needed a lot of IEP assistance. And in those days, early on, the teachers I always felt had the power to adjust up and down to meet those kids' needs, and they thrived. They did great, and I'll always be grateful to those teachers here at Lockport. Those kids left here, and I always felt they were ready for what was next. About 8-10 years ago, change started happening really fast. I mean, Chromebooks, homework was easily automated, multiple choice testing, free response answers were kind of gone. I mean, a lot of change happened, a lot of it driven, I think, by technology and sometimes misuse of technology. Last year, my number 4 graduated, good student, top 10%, went off to public school, but my gut told me she wasn't ready. She wasn't ready like she should have been. And this last semester, she proved me right. She really struggled, and she struggled, and if she were here, she would tell you she struggled on her study skills. She struggled emotionally, socially, didn't have all the tools and didn't handle adversity well. So she's trying to get it all together, and she's doing her best, but as a father, I kind of said, oh, maybe I wasn't paying attention. Maybe I let her down. Maybe. So for somebody like me, I dug in. I started reading books. I started, is there something we're doing in the family that's wrong? Is there something going on in the school that's different? And I don't really know what to make of it, but I'm trying to piece it all together. And a couple of themes have come to the forefront for me. One is about lower standards. I think gradually I've seen a slow reduction of standards. I wrote down, kind of on a piece of paper where standards have risen that I could find and where standards were lowered. And the lowered list is bigger. I'm not going to read them to you. I'll pass them out later. But it was just something that was a little red flag for me, that maybe we're lowering the standards and dumbing down too much. The other thing that resonated to me was distractions. I feel like the world is loaded with distractions now. COVID, the mother of all distractions, we have to admit that was nothing, nobody called for that. But I think we have to take responsibility and admit no matter where you were in that, we all lost sight of our core mission as a school. It no longer was school, it was something else. And I think it really affected people. Digital distractions, I mean, need I say more? I mean, this is the most neuron-crushing device you could develop. Legislative distractions. The biggest thing I've learned, the most shocking thing I've learned, is reading through Dr. McBride's legislative reports. It is mind-blowing that people from far away can politically grandstand, get their picture with the governor, put something into place, and all of a sudden it's forever having to be implemented in our school. That undermines local school board control, and I think if most parents saw that, they would be furious. I know I was. Cultural distractions. I mean, I don't have any evidence of anything crazy being taught in this school, but I do see it. I do see it 100 miles away, 1,000 miles away. I worry that it's coming, and we don't need more distractions in the classroom. I think one of your key roles is to protect the classroom, not allow distractions into the classroom. I mean, there's a lot of issues out there on the cultural bit. I think a lot of it can be addressed through just a robust teaching of U.S. history, but that's my personal opinion. Finally, the most disturbing thing, I think, is I talked to a lot of teachers both in and out of the district, and there's a sense from them that they've lost a little bit of control in the classroom. Many more things are coming top down, and that's the exact opposite, which what I felt worked so well for my kids early on. Am my time up? Okay. I'm going to leave you with 4 questions. Number 1, over the summer, when you're out and about, are the kids ready? Ask business owners, pizza drivers, ask, are the kids ready? It might just be my kid. I'm a sample size of 1. 2, are we lowering the standards in too many areas? 3, are we more likely to achieve goals using a centralized approach or a decentralized bottom-up approach where the teacher owns the classroom? And finally, it ties in with just the previous speaker. Can you build a better way to have a dialogue with parents? Because we're the only ones who are getting the life outcomes from when they fail, when they boomerang. They don't go to your house, they come back to us. And you need to know what happens when they leave and when they fall on their face because they weren't ready. With that, thank you very much. I'd love to hear from you. I'm going to pass around a sheet of paper. It has my email on it and my phone number's on the sheet. And thank you for all that you do.
Moving on, notes and communications.
We received a note of thanks from Dr. Lori Cristofero, thanking us for the flowers that we provided her in honor of her receiving her doctorate.
Thank you. All right, and then you have the Freedom of Information requests there that were there. All right, moving on then to our approval items. As far as the minutes, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the March 21, 2022 regular Board of Education meeting minutes?
So moved.
And I can second that. Are there any questions to those minutes? All right, hearing none. Roll call.
Johnson?
Yes.
Navarro?
Yes.
Shaw?
Yes.
Lewandowski?
Yes.
Lopez Caniva?
Yes. Now, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the March 21st, 2022 regular Board of Education meeting closed session minutes?
So moved.
I'll second it.
It's been motioned by Dr. Shaw and second by Mr. Lewandowski. Are there any questions to those minutes? All right, hearing none, roll call.
Navarro,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Lewandowski,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. All right, moving on to board expenses. Do I have a motion to approve the April 2022 board member expenses?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
It's been motioned by Mr. Lewandowski and second by Dr. Shaw. Are there any questions? All right, roll call.
Shaw,
Yes.
Lewandowski.
Yes.
Navarro,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. All right, treasurer's report. Do I have a motion to approve the March 2022 treasurer's report?
And this is where.
Oh, yeah, that's
you
right.
know, in the
Sorry.
format, we're gonna have Stephanie Croy, you know, we can have the motion, but Stephanie's gonna, just for board members too, a little bit of highlight of the treasurer's report. In this case, the 5-year financial projection and where that position is now. So I don't know if you want to do
Sure.
a motion
I'll
or
do
if
'em.
just
Yeah.
Mrs. Croy's remarks.
Why don't we start with her? Okay,
You'll
go ahead.
still want to approve the treasurer's
Yeah,
report
yeah.
afterwards, but, good evening, board, and members of the public, my fellow administrators. First, I want to point out to the board members that you will see some changes to the treasurer's report section this month. As with the rest of the agenda, we're trying to streamline some things, and instead of putting the interfund transfer memo that you would normally see at the end of the report, it's now part of the treasurer's report. While it doesn't necessarily need to be approved, it's part of the treasurer's report. So you'll see all of that in there, in addition to the normal reports that you see on the statement of fund balance and the revenue and the expenditures and the cash flow of the district. And then in addition, this month, this is kind of becoming the historical month that we start to talk about the cash flow and kind of forecast out what our cash looks like, or we're hoping it ends up looking like, right? You're going to see a couple of there's a bunch of reports in here. I'm going to highlight a few of them, okay? One of the first things I want to say about the cash flow projection or forecast is it's a forecast or a projection, right? It's only as good as assumptions that are going into it, which of course change daily, sometimes minute by minute. And the other piece of information I want to say is, as we go out in the future, the assumptions that we're making today for next year, there's a higher risk that those are pretty good assumptions. If you go out to the 5th year out, the risk of that assumption being off is of course greater. This 5-year forecast model that we use here, or have traditionally used here, is based off of the current year budget figures. And I've started using a new tool this year, which is a more robust month-by-month cash flow projection. So this first page that Mr. Janke has helped us show here, this first page is actually not the 5-year forecast. What it is what I expect June 30th's balance to look like. So if you look at this report, well, it's got all these colors and all these lines. The top 2 lines, the blue line is the current year and the projection for the end of the month, and the red line is historical, the red dashed line. The first 9 months of this is actual data, okay? So it's uploaded into this software what the actual revenue and expenditures of the district were every month. So what you see is you see the decline, right? That's a historical, like our other cash flow report in the treasurer's report. It shows that we collect taxes, which is the bulk of our funds, like Dr. McBride referred to. We are primarily highly funded by our property tax base. That is collected 2 times a year, then we spend it down, okay? And then one of the times we collect half of it is June, which is why you see that projected line going up, okay? That line is saying we're collecting our tax money in June. The tax levy that was approved by the board in December, the first collections, the payments are due June 1st. We'll get our first round of the significant collections in June. So what you're seeing there is the end of that. That's okay, it clears. So then this is updating what our budget numbers are for 2022, okay? So that ending balance there, the figures that went into this go into what's on the next page. So Mr. Janke, can you please move to the next page, please? Thank you. So what this shows right here, this is the 5-year projection for all of the funds of the district, okay? So it includes all of them listed across the top. That's all of the funds of the district. The balance of this report shows various charts, graphs that break down other pieces, okay? This is the big picture projection, forecast. What you'll see is you've seen some growth in our fund balance. So what I want to point out here to the board is the way that public bodies are funded, right? Like the board and the public. Public bodies are funded based on our property taxes, which are restricted. Our expenditures, however, are not restricted. Therefore, we grow our fund balances to account for things like 8% inflation that we're seeing now, right? So all of our expenditures are going up. We're expecting them to continue growing up for a short period of time here. And so hopefully what happens is the fund balances, with the fund balance goal of the district between 6 and 12 months cash on hand, keeping the fund balances within that range allows us to weather the potential for significant inflation next year. Some of the assumptions going into this report do include the consumer price index, which is inflation-based, an inflation-based index of being 7% for the year that we're going to be levying the next time around, which will be restricted based on our property tax extension and limitation law under that. Other assumptions in here are collective bargaining agreements. Those are fed into here, this projection model of what the raises are already approved in the collective bargaining agreements for the next few years. We know our insurance, medical insurance, which is of course another big chunk of the benefits provided to our employees. We're expecting a 9.6% increase of that for next year, following inflation, right? Also following trends, just medical trends. Typically, we have a few years of pretty stable or low percent increases, and then we'll have 1 year that's a big year, and then it'll hopefully stabilize again after that. Some of the other thing that I'd like to point out to the board is that you'll see that we're trying to level things out. The other big piece of our expenditures in here is our capital projects, right? So our operations and maintenance director, Bill Thompson, provided to our finance committee meeting, just the other piece that I wanted to mention, that the finance committee did preview this, and we went through like the more detail of how this was created and more of the assumptions. One of the big pieces of it is the capital work that's going into it, right? That's one of the things that preparing a cash flow analysis and a forecast like this actually helps us guide some of those capital projects, right? Depending on what our forecast looks like, Mr. Thompson decides what we can work on and what the priorities are based on needs, life safety, educational priorities. Those things are all determined and based on what this kind of analysis feeds into. Okay. Let me see, one of the other pieces of information I wanted to, can you flip to the next page, please? This is the figures that support that graph, okay? So the bottom line, you'll see that we are within the first couple of years here, our ending year this year and the next year are projected to be a little bit above our 12 months cash on hand. And there's some reasons for that. One of them is the lunch program that Dr. McBride spoke about in his superintendent, well, it's coming up probably. We budgeted back in the beginning of the school year for a certain amount of lunches to be distributed, which means a certain amount of reimbursement. More lunches are being distributed. So there's some revenue coming in there and the timing of that. Obviously, ESSER funds are funds that weren't all accounted for either, because at the time that we budgeted, we didn't know the extent of that. There's also, I don't know where I moved my other report, but there are also some expenditure pieces that are unexpectedly lower than we thought too. So it's things like some of our busing for special education is lower than expected. Some of the tuition costs are lower than expected, and those are all kind of driven by need. And if the needs aren't exactly what we thought they were going to be, those things change, okay? So along with some lower expenses and some more revenue coming in, one of the other big revenue pieces that came in way more than expected is something called corporate personal property replacement taxes, and it's a corporate income tax piece. We've received significantly more revenue from that than we have over the last 5-10 years. So that was a completely unexpected piece, which pushes our balances at the beginning higher. Again, what you'll see in the projection in the middle, you'll see the surplus deficit numbers. Further out we go, we do show a little bit expected deficit, which would mean that we're spending down some of these balances, okay? Again, this is all funds. This is set up, this report for the board is set up where the total fund things are in the front, and towards the back are by fund. The only by fund I would really like to point out to the board is the debt service fund. The debt service fund schedule is on page 12. Can you go to page 12 for me? Oh, and for those of you at home, I think Eric is flipping pages as well. So what I want to point out to the board here is the district only has two bond issues currently, okay, and they are small bond issues, small in comparison to what we would need if we needed to build a building, right? What you'll see on this report is if you look in the kind of the middle, the expenditure section, you'll see that the expenditures are about 1.5 million right now. That's what it's taking, that's what we're paying over the next couple of years for our principal and interest towards our bonds. And if you'll see in that 5th year out, 2027, that's when one of the bond issues is paid off. Okay, so in 2027, one of those two will be paid off. The other one will be paid off in 2031. So at that time, if there's no other debt issued by the district, we would have no bond service debt or debt service, okay? That's pertinent to note because that's definitely affects tax rates. It's also pertinent to note because if we do end up building or we need bigger capital projects, we may need to issue bonds for those purposes, right? As I mentioned, the capital projects, what's covered in here capital project-wise are what we consider shorter term within the next 5 years projects, right? Roofing replacements, moving, like Mr. Thompson has some of the other things in his maintenance report are in there, moving the Port of Pride store, doing some other internal projects. Those are all accounted for in here. What's not accounted for in here are the bigger projects. For example, major issues at Central, right? Like, so if we have some system malfunction at Central and it's going to cost millions of dollars to fix, we don't have that built into this projection. So that would significantly affect the balances. And depending on the size of something like that, life safety bonds or something might need to be issued by the board, okay? In the event that we were to build or do a big addition, bonds would also need to be issued for that, just like we issued bonds to do the most recent additions here as well. That's what's left that we're paying off. Do board members have any questions on what you're seeing? Because it's kind of a lot to take in. Would you flip back forwards to me to page 2? Yeah. Just so that they can see the overall again. So yeah, yes, this one. This is the projection. Does the board have any questions about what they're seeing here? As I look back at and see if I'm missing any of my other notes.
I just wanted to also Mr. Navarro, myself, and Mr. Ives, we did go to the Finance Committee, and it was more of an in-depth, study that we did with this 5-year projection plan. And then we also looked at Mr. Thompson's, his whole spreadsheet type of thing regarding the major repairs that are coming, and then we also talked about some scenarios. We talked about Central Campus to big expenditures that may be we may be foreseeing in the future. But it was just something dialogue to talk about on it. And, but yes, thank you, Stephanie. You did provide us, like I said, an in-depth on all this and how the program worked, and yeah, it was very informative. Very informative.
Yeah,
So
and
any
it's
questions?
Some of the other assumptions that go into
I
it.
know, yeah. Any other?
I'm sorry?
Was the finance committee meeting recorded?
No, because it was in person. Yeah, it was in person.
Mhm.
So it was not recorded, no. We'll have some minutes, and I think the draft minutes are actually in our, attached to the treasurer's report in here. The draft minutes are in there. If you want to see that, I think it's an attachment to the treasurer's report. Or if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. There's a lot of assumptions that could change at any time. Basically, this is intended to give us like a framework or a guide for the board to help us make decisions on what projects as we bring things forward, what can we do, what can we afford, what should we do at this time, that kind of thing.
Thank you. All right.
Mrs.
All
Croy.
right, all right then. Now, I think we still have to approve, right?
Right,
No,
we still-
yeah, I
we
still
have
do,
to-
yeah. Do I have a motion to approve the March 2022 Treasurer's Report?
So moved.
And I can second that. It's been motioned by Dr. Shawn, seconded by Lopez Caniva. All right, roll call.
Johnson,
Yes.
Lewandowski,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Navarro,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. All right, next we have our Superintendent Report.
Right, well, it is starting to feel like the end of a school year. You know, we're in awards season, Illinois State Scholars, award ceremonies last week, more to come. So you're starting to feel, wow, 5 weeks left to go. It's always amazing to me in my career that can happen so quickly. Advanced placement tests are on the horizon. And I wanted to just spend a few minutes in my report addressing some things that have come up in public comment, and also some new projects and some new partnerships, but also really a great event last week, our career week. We had 60 plus speakers, the energy, the everything from a presentation by Mrs. Cooper's husband in this room about construction trades, all the way to attorneys, to our very own master heart maker, Mr. Lewandowski, 3 presentations, and Dick Ives, presentation about being a business owner. And really one of the most impressive things I thought was just heavy attendance by our students, and then also just their behavior, their engagement, their questions, their thoughtfulness. It was part of a board goal I'm going to mention just a little bit later in my report. Student mental health certainly has been on the national scene, the state scene, and the local scene. And I think some time will tell us whether the pandemic shined a new spotlight on really mental health for all of us, that we put it all a little bit more out in the open and disassociated some of the stigma related to it, or are we working with something new? That's not quite clear. But it is clear that a student has to be intellectually well, emotionally well, socially well, in order, as Mr. Simmons said, to be prepared. This is part of what we're trying to do as a public institution that graduates students. On student mental health, just a few steps to share with the board, a few progressions and some new development. I think the first step that we did in June 2020 of adopting the Resilient Youth Curriculum, Anna mentioned a portion of that was a very important step, because what it's done is it's baked in mental health into really everything we do. Interesting news last week, we were the first in Will County to adopt that. United Way is partnering with the Regional Office of Education. They've earned $1 million grant to have the Resilient Youth Curriculum available to every school in Will County. So amazing that Lockport Township High School is the parent of that. We've continued to partner with Kids Matter. Kids Matter is in the process right now of introducing us to Dooley, which is, I'm not sure what that acronym is, but it's healthcare. Very interesting, has a new presence here in Lockport, and partnering also with our feeder district group as well. And we'll be meeting on May 12th to talk about that. But one of the things that was most instrumental, we were ahead of state legislation, having the 24/7 crisis text line for teens. We were one of the first in the area to put, now it's a state requirement, a lot of our building leadership, to put that crisis text line on every student ID, so that is available for students. Tomorrow night, we usually do a lot of our mental health webinars with Kids Matter. It's entirely different, kind of came from our building leadership. Dr. Greenan. We're gonna have a national speaker tomorrow who, via a short video, a 40-minute video, will speak to all of our PE and health classes. Tyler Derman, I really suggest anyone here look up his website. And then tomorrow evening, he'll be leading for parents a live webinar on the state of student wellness, mental health, especially on the issue of bullying and how students treat each other, and what's needed. We surveyed students throughout the year and really echo some of the comments that we heard tonight. Students overwhelmingly are feeling the support. They feel school support, their parents are supportive at home, but there's a couple things that they are challenged with. They're challenged by, number one, their own efficacy. Can they take on challenges and be successful? They're not sure. Also, self-talk. Students report being very concerned about their own self-talk. And then when you have difficult feelings, you have difficult emotions, how do you process those out? So we try to get our pulse on them. I think directly, oh yeah.
Can you explain specifically what you mean by self-talk? Is it just them speaking to themselves, or?
Yeah, how they talk to themselves.
Yeah.
How they have an internal dialogue about themselves. And you find frequently, it's a really good question, Mr. Navarro, that you will meet so often students who seem very accomplished. And then when you peel out some of the conversations they have about themselves, a lot of self-blame, a lot of pressure, a lot of low, talking to themselves in a way that doesn't lift themselves up. That's a great question. I think one of the things coming out of our work with students, we implemented Compass and Late Start Wednesdays, and the feedback, we'll be doing some program evaluation on that, is that has been helpful because it's eased the stress that students experience. And then I think I really have to credit our guidance department this year. We partnered with Rosecrans Behavioral Health, because if you're seeking behavioral health, it's tough these days to get an appointment. If you come in and you speak to a school counselor, we don't do clinical work. Our social workers don't do clinical work. We might hand you the card of a behavioral health specialist. You get in the car, you go home with your teen. It's very easy not to make that appointment. So Rosecrans has mental health professionals that are here. They're not here every day during the week. But if a family wants to directly walk down the hall on the days that they are here, obviously by choice, they can meet with a representative from Rosecrans, who is a clinician, maybe start an initial conversation, and more easily get that movement to some assistance going. So just a few notes on mental health. And I really hope anybody in the public, anybody here that's on our website, I would really encourage you to tune in tomorrow night to Tyler Derman. Your time will be well spent. We also had a lot of conversation.
What time tomorrow?
7 p.m. emceed by Dr. Greenan, who's representing also Dr. Green, and really this was their idea, so kudos to them. Also, we had lots of conversation about the USDA lunch program, so I just want to make a few mentions about board decisions and decisions we made as administration. We really encountered very early in the pandemic, there was economic stress, which oftentimes can lead to food stress, and one of the important goals that we had was making sure that our students were fed. Obviously, we were concerned about students who qualified for free and reduced lunch. We entered into the USDA program. I think Mr. Lewandowski had a lunch last week. And it was designed as a program initially to cover students' food scarcity in the summer, but then we noticed that we could move that into the school year. And in essence, any student without any stigma, without any application, could receive a free lunch if they so wanted to. There is a requirement, as we talked about last month, to have a dairy product, a fruit, a vegetable, a starch, and a meat. They're not all the same every single day, but there is that requirement. We can't include some of the more popular things, tater tots, greasy pizza. I was a big fan in school of chocolate chip cookies. And we hope in the fall to return to our regular programming. It's been interesting with participation. Students are not required to participate, but we've tripled, as Mrs. Corey said, participation this year. We have about 1,400 to 1,600 students take a lunch every single day. And so that, in our estimate, saves families about $100 to $150 per month, for a total savings in the year of about $1,000, which eases their burden, especially when we're at a time of rising costs. So the idea is, without a stigma, without a question, there's always a lunch that's available for students. Then, like Mrs. Croy, doesn't bear repeating, the funding is a reimbursement. For every lunch taken, the USDA, or breakfast for that matter, reimburses the school district. Earlier it was mentioned in Mrs. Croy, new partnerships, facility master planning. We do have a legacy building, Central, as Mrs. Croy mentioned. Built into that projection that you saw are not some of the pitfalls of having almost 120-year-old building, boilers, walls, roofs. So we are working right now to take a look at our facilities. We'll talk about it in Mr. Thompson's report. But really to see all of our facilities, our Central, East, and our transport center, and then we have a facility that's disused. It's not used right now except by our farmer who farms it in Holmberg Glen on Cedar Road. What is the cost of those facilities, and how are they functioning for modern schooling? As I mentioned earlier, we're talking to the city right now. It's very interested in our participation, Joliet Junior College, in terms of the Chevron property and what could be possible there. A couple of other exciting partnerships. Seniors Will Grow. I mentioned that to the board through Mrs. Johnson's leadership and Fairmont Community Partnership and the Will County Board. We're working on first a volunteer community service, our last big district community service. We'll take any volunteers who want to plant, but on May 21st, we're hoping to get 100 student volunteers to descend on Fairmont and do some planting for the community, specifically seniors. Thus, the Seniors Will Grow. Also, I want to mention, and we'll talk a little bit later, Lockport City Partnership. As board knows, we'll talk and hopefully approve a school resource officer intergovernmental agreement, and we've worked very closely. Safety and security, that has never gone away. So that partnership with the city is very important. And then finally, equity planning. Career Week last week was really part of the board's equity goal. And what that is that every student who graduates by 2025 has college and career readiness. Advanced placement class, dual credit class, an industry credential, or employability. We're currently at 27% would make having all of that. And we really want to close that gap, especially because so many students who graduate from this institution, they return to this community. So it's really a question of, who do you want as a neighbor? Do you want somebody, as Mr. Simmons mentioned, prepared? And one of the best ways to be prepared is to have that exposure to college and career in high school before you sink time and treasure into an education, whatever you choose when you leave. So that is my report. Questions? All right. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay. Next we have those, our information reports, curriculum report, and
Sorry, I had to take a picture of ours because my battery's dying. My phone. Oh, you printed it out. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
So Dr. Huntington and I are here because we wanted to kind of review with you what we did in the curriculum committee meeting, and then I'll go into depth on one item that we previewed there, and then gave you more information now, and then ask you to vote on next month.
So our first topic was Math Plus and Science Plus programming for next year that the board approved, where we are taking our teachers who are certified in certain content area and providing additional Tier 2 interventions for students who need that level of support. So giving them an assigned time to get re-instruction, reassessment, and in order to ensure that they achieve mastery in these math and science content classes. And so we talked about that in the board, in the committee meeting, about how we're moving forward in scheduling those students. And then we also talked about, well, Dr. McBride kind of stole some of my thunder, but our Seniors Will Grow program, we're pretty excited about that. And again,
Well, thanks. So I'm learning how to use different systems, and we've been able to utilize the Sunday message. Thank you, Dr. Green and Dr. Greenan, for throwing that in there. And so now we're building our capacity to have students come in and ordering things, and we've been having meetings every 2 weeks to really make sure that this is a great, successful project that can continue. It's not a one-stop deal. We're going to try to move forward. Right now, we're in the process of interviewing students who are going to work over the summer with some job coaching support from our special ed programming to be employed in the summer, maintaining these garden beds that we're going to be growing. And so we're pretty excited about that as well.
The other two items that we talked about were really, we previewed the work we've done to create 6 career pathways here to really help students see where their interests might lie. None of the pathways prevent students from moving in and out and determining this isn't the right pathway for me. It's really to give them a vision and really to give them some exposure to some capstone experiences. And the capstone experiences are really supposed to be both in the classroom and outside of the classroom. So one of the best examples we have of a capstone experience we already have in place is our tech crew that I know you've toured their facility, but we have that's an employment experience students can have, but also students could take AP Computer Science, right? So they really might know that they're interested in one of our pathways. Our 6 pathways are on the little brochure, and Ms. Johnson said you need to give everybody that brochure, and we're happy to do so. But inside, you can see the 6 pathways. How do we come up with these 6 pathways? Well, we looked at student data from the class of 22 and the class of 21 to see, because there are really 16 career clusters by the U.S. Department of, I'm going to forget the department, Labor, thank you. And so they had identified which of the career clusters. We also looked at the programming we already had in place, and we looked at the future job outlook, and this is where we landed. And this was a cross-section, and we've had, there were some administrative folks that looked at this. Angela Adolph was key in it, like where would this connect with our community? And then we shared it with some guidance staff, we shared it with our department chairs, kind of as a cross-section, and we're hoping in the near future to test it out with some of our students to see how this might help them in the future as well. The 2 questions we asked our board members who were at our committee meeting, we feel there is way too much verbiage on this document, so we were like, what should we take out? Please help us. And then the other thing was, what are the ideas you have within the community where we should be reaching out, where you see natural connections to help us build these capstone experiences? And capstone experiences could be just job shadowing, career speakers, etc. I don't know if you want to comment on any verbiage that you're like, oh, you could move this out. Ms. Johnson, if there's anything you want to add about the Seniors Learn or the career pathways.
I think that the seniors will grow.
Yes, thank you. I said seniors
I think
will learn.
that is, it's a win-win. The seniors in Fairmont get to get a garden and help, and then our students get an internship. You know, that's something that they could try out and see if something they like to do going forward. Also in the school, the horticulture department, they do normal stuff, but this is a new opportunity because they got to use their math skills, reading skills. They got to use a lot of skills are coming into play. Like how much, got to get it right. Soil, right?
We had that discussion today.
We call it dirt. They didn't like dirt. How much soil do you need to buy to fill these planter boxes, And then is it building trades? Is that the one doing the planter boxes, the measurement and make sure that it's the right size. And there's a lot of, practical applications that are coming into play. So, plus our kids get to get community service hours to help them graduate. So, like I said, it's a win-win all around.
Any other questions on the pathways?
And I would just add on the pathways, ultimately it's as I said before, experiencing the things before you graduate and you make an investment perhaps in a field you thought was a good fit for you. Now you find yourself 2 years at a learning institution and it's not I feel, but also in this area particularly, we're in a very rich area. For example, there is a crisis in this country in aviation mechanics. Probably every single person in this room has benefited from aviation mechanics. And it's always made me mad to see School District 214 driving its white buses over to Lewis University. And School District 214 geographically, it's up in Des Plaines, Mount Prospect, Buffalo Grove, and literally right over across the river is a program that we could expose our students to early, where students would be stepping out of high school, possibly out of a experience at Lewis early on, and their partnership with airlines into some of the best paying jobs with the best paying benefits, and something they might not have ever considered in a field that has a great deal of need. And it's getting that information to students, and you heard from President Mitchell just all of the things. Most expanding area is healthcare, and right down the road we have Silver Cross Hospital. So it's about connecting students with not only a traditional college prep, high school education, that and some more robust exposure.
And I like the capstone idea because I used the Lewis University students to do work for me at my non-for-profit. And like, they come in and do networking, you know, so I don't have to worry about paying for that kind of service. Plus, they get experience of being out in the field. And again, like you say, you can see if that's something they want to do. So for us doing it for high school students, I think that's a great opportunity. So.
I just want to make a note that I think it's also important to show students what they don't want, because there are things that, like, for me, as I grew, I thought that I wanted to go into like accounting and law, and I both realized that those are really bad stuff for me. So it's also nice to like, you know, expose kids to like quick but like real life stuff so that they know like, yeah, this is not for me.
Yeah, it's very astute, Mr. Navarre, because one of the best conversations I had was at Hersey High School, which is in School District 214. In a pre-engineering pathway, and a senior said the best thing that came out of her pathway was that she does not want to be an electrical engineer. And it's good to find that out as a senior, not to go to U of I, Granger School of Engineering, and after 2 years, time, treasure, talent, that's not what that's a great, you know, great perception.
It's good to find out before you spend an entire semester of college realizing this is a field you don't want to be in.
And you know, just one more point, our demographer, Jerome McKibben, you know, really shared with the board that what he sees in his projection in the next 10 years is school districts that are doing clear workforce preparation with that in mind, and college prep, both as equal partners, are going to be the school districts that'll succeed. Interesting forecast.
So as you think about maybe opportunities you think for connections we should make, you know how to email us, or if you have ideas about how we should, things that you think are not important for just kind of the general overview brochure, we'd appreciate that. The last thing we talked about was really about how do resources get chosen for use in our organization. So I really focused on this report for you on how do we select those kind of what would have been traditionally more like textbooks, right? Back when I started teaching, textbooks were like on a 6-year cycle. They were worked through the state. But now we kind of have a different mode because so many of our resources are online, they're site licensed, they're things like that. So really, it always starts with the teacher team, the course team, the department chair works with them and determines, should we keep using this resource? Sometimes we have a contract, so the answer is yes. Most of our contracts are not more than 3 years because the types of resources we have are just changing so rapidly. We have so much available. Most of everything you're seeing in front of you, the answer was yes, we want to keep using this. But if a teacher team said this is no longer the right resource for us, they work with the department chair, they can work with me to get some sample materials in front of them to to review. So once the teacher team has either approved or they've worked through the department chair and they've selected a new resource, we do have a form that they fill out if it is a new resource. And the department chair approves it, then the department chair brings all of their department wishes for resources to a meeting. And in the meeting is Ms. Croy representing our financial interest. I'm there. Dr. Webb Ray is there. And then Kate Fahey is who partners with us out of our technology department. Because again, so much of it is making sure we have the right technology in place for the license, for this, the site that they may be using. And so we review it, ask questions. We have some really great dialogue about the resource. And then when it gets approved by that team, it then comes to you. So you also have in there the items that most of which we've used before. The only one you're really going to see that is different this year is our school links programming with our guidance department. And that is right along with what we've just been talking about, this idea of helping students have a 4-year plan so they can really get into and see what they like and what they don't like, what they're good at, what's the right fit for them. And really, it will engage students in an online dialogue. We will definitely have a showcase for you so you can understand school links, but I think most importantly, I think our guidance team is excited because really the placement into classes, instead of just being like a month-long or a couple weeks process, it's an ongoing dialogue because it's interactive. When colleges come and might have a specific program, we can shoot out emails and information to students who are interested in it. For example, I think one of the great forensic science programs right now is in Tennessee, and so when University of Tennessee, Knoxville comes to visit, any student who says, like, I think I'm interested in that field or I'm interested in the science pathway, they can shoot it out and alert students to it. Or when we have guest speakers in, that's another way. And there's a feed in there to help students see what is of interest and give them more information. I'll stop talking there and wait for any questions.
Exciting.
It is. We're really excited for it. It's gonna also bring in, like when Ms. Johnson was talking about how community service can also be like that capstone experience or that experience where you see this is what I wanna do or not wanna do. That is embedded in it. It gives us a place for an easy alumni network connection. And it really gives us a warehouse when we make these connections where we find somebody like Mr. Lewandowski, who's got a special skill and we have a connection, and you have a student who comes up, and that's an easy warehouse to see how can we help students job shadow, have a discussion with somebody. So we're really excited about it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, principal reports.
Good evening. It's hard to believe that this is the last week of April. It has been quite the busy spring. Just a couple of things to highlight. We had our state testing take place on April 13th. And so on that Wednesday, the sophomores took the PSAT 10 and our juniors actually took the SAT. And our attendance was very strong. We actually just debriefed the testing days today. We had 96% attendance for our SAT, which is great. And then on Thursday the 14th, juniors took the Illinois Science Assessment. And over at the Freshman Center, our freshmen took the PSAT 8-9 as well. So those were great days for us. And then several people have talked about Career Week. And we were just really happy that over 1,600 students here at East were able to get in and see over 43 different careers. And thank you to Angela Adolph on helping to get so many guest speakers come in here. You know, having 60 guest speakers is a tall task to come in, you know, during the school day. So we're very excited about that in the future as we talk about our career clusters and making sure that our students are getting all of those opportunities. As you read through the report, you can see all of the great things going on in our spring sports. They are all in conference play with a lot of our teams right there in the hunt for another conference title. And we're very excited as they start heading into the state playoffs. We've kind of had a little trend here with the fall and the winter, and hoping that our trend continues and we are in the hunt for another state title. So we'll see how that goes. Activities, Group and Terp, you actually honored our all-state actors from Group and Terp tonight. They were phenomenal with their big business performance, and they finished third at sectionals and advanced to the state finals. We're really excited to give our seniors an opportunity to attend prom this Saturday. So down at the Museum of Science and Industry, we have about 1,000 students who will be attending. That's a new school record. And then also on the horizon, we'll have the senior dinner dance and then twerp that will take place outside that all of our students can attend. A lot of great things going on, a lot of people thinking of others, a lot of charity events. Our future educators are doing a book drive. Many of our clubs, as you saw in here, are collaborating and organizing donations for Ukraine relief. So our kids are really trying to help others out in this time as well. And NHS, they do a lot of community service, and they actually just worked at Habitat for Humanity Restore in Joliet. And our guidance department and our district office is doing a great job of trying to provide opportunities for community service for our kids and making sure that those are in Transio so that they know. So when we look at the calendar and just over 25 days left in the school year, we're excited to have a lot of these opportunities for our students to close out the year.
We're hoping for better weather. It's been a miserable spring, I must say. I've gotten out to a few things, not as much as I would like, but it can only go up from here, right?
Yes.
I hope so anyways. But like Carrie said, we're really excited for the end of the school year as we can get back to having some of the celebrations that we're accustomed to having. It was great to be at the World Language Induction Ceremony last week. We were going to try to pull that off last year, and unfortunately we had to go with a virtual ceremony, so it was great to be in person. I'm very much looking forward to all the events that Carrie highlighted as we head into May. For the discipline and attendance report that Mr. Bartley provided, you could see that numbers were similar to the previous month in February. As we look and analyze at the month of March, we're going to continue to look at, be focused on, and try to be as consistent as we can with tardies and with our electronic device policy. Other incidents, of course, will be treated with the individual attention as needed by our deans and by our guidance counselors. Also, Carrie mentioning community service, I also want to add that we do have a targeted approach by our deans and our guidance staff to really reach those seniors who need that little extra push, community service hours in particular, academically, of course, but with community service hours, as we really have tried to communicate, incentivize seniors to get their hours done, to put them in Transio. Every Monday, we do a $5 gift card to our very own L-Town Grounds, where I announce 5 winners, and they also get a certificate and a sticker as well. So we're really trying to continue to push that, but please know that our counselors and deans are also working at targeting students who need that extra push as well. You can see the attendance report is there. Last month holds strong at 95%. And in addition, you can see the overnight field trip requests that were put in, one that took place already with our track and field team going down to Belleville a few weeks ago, and then this upcoming weekend, girls varsity soccer heading to Iowa. Are there any questions?
Do you want to mention IDEA over the weekend?
Absolutely. The Illinois Design Educators Association has a state competition at Illinois State University. Just this past weekend, we had several students compete, and we are very proud to announce that our architecture design team finished first place and our state champions. That's Chloe Berry, Bilal Yusini, and Robert Carbars. So we are actually going to have a parade for our state champions at the beginning of 7th period tomorrow, as we have for our previous state champions this year, with athletics, with activities, and now with academics. So thanks for reminding us, Dr. McBride. As again, we are super proud of our students. Jeff Brown, one of our teachers, Corey DeZan, Dan Moston, Courtney Oxley Turner, the department chair of that particular department. It's been awesome celebrating student success.
On this Wednesday, top 10% dinner, so we're very excited to have that event come back onto the calendar as well.
It's too early to talk about Fresh Start. How's that?
No, Fresh Start and Fresh Start Plus are underway.
Okay, So you registering kids now?
We are. We're registering kids. We're looking at probably having around 350 again as well. So we're looking forward to having those kids in the building. And then the assistant principals and Lori have done a great job. Trish and Jen really thought about how we can do a little extra for those kids that we are identifying from the junior highs that need that extra connection. So they're having Fresh Start Plus.
Okay, I was gonna ask you what's that.
Yes, so Fresh Start Plus is basically 2 days a week after Fresh Start. We're going to have like an extra lesson or connection for identified target group of kids. And we're going to provide lunch, and we'll have some of our other awesome educators come in and just try to hook them in and show them all the great things that LTHS has to offer. So we're really excited about that. That's new this year.
Good.
So we already talked to the feeder schools last week when we met with the consortium and asked them to really start thinking about 5 to 6 kids from each feeder school.
So those students won an architecture design competition for
Yeah.
state. Why aren't we recognizing them?
Next month.
We are? Okay, cool.
It just happened Saturday, so
It just happened?
you'll
How long does
you'll
it
be
take
able to
for
meet
us
them next
to-
month.
How long does it take for us to schedule like a recognition thing? Like,
Well, usually to the parents and to notify them, you know, a little bit more, and sometimes we don't know the outcome, like, you know, a lot of times weekend events, we, you know, go off, since we meet monthly, sort of on a monthly cycle.
okay, I see.
Yeah. It's a
That's
huge,
nice.
We'll invite them
Illinois is a
for
very
next month.
competitive state in technology.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, and there you see the maintenance report. Are
And I
there
know,
any
Mr.
questions? Are there any
Thompson is
questions for
here.
Mr. Thompson there? Again, he does a very lengthy one, but.
It is very lengthy, you know, probably just a few highlights for the board. You know, it's a busy time, lots to maintain. There is a mention, and I mentioned this to the board before, Amoresco is a company that is a performance contract company, and one of the things that they do is they put together business cases, particularly with facilities, for lots of public bodies, but to help you understand not only the actual costs that could be on the horizon for you, but what are the opportunity costs. And in those business cases, those aren't used. There isn't a fee actually for Amoresco unless you use one of their business cases. Port of Pride store, we're kind of moving it out into the cafeteria, so it's a little bit more accessible. And then also just one little notice that Mr. Thompson put in. If you get a chance, if you're in the building at Central or East, we did some very nice graphics to finish off the port here at East and at Central to evoke sort of old Lockport, the idea of a port, and when Lockport was a port. So some vintage photography incorporated into the actual glass of the doors. So it's very stylish, looks great.
You said vintage photography?
Mm-hmm. Historic photography. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Like this.
All right, well, thank you. All right, then, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items from number 2 to number 16?
I move to.
It's been approved by what, Ms. Johnson?
Yeah.
All right,
Second.
and it's been motioned by Ms. Johnson and second by Dr. Shaw. Are there any questions to any of those consent agenda items? All right, hearing none, roll call.
Navarro,
Yes.
Lewandowski,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. All right, do I have a motion to approve the City of Lockport intergovernmental agreement for school resource officer?
So moved.
I'll second it.
All right, it's been motioned by Dr. Shaw and second by Mr. Lewandowski. Are there any questions? I just want to make that comment that yes, this is going to be a great relationship with us, with the city of, you know, with the police department and the safety of our students here. Thank you. Thank you.
Looks like you were also had a comment, Dr. Shaw.
Well, I mean, the public kind of left,
Yeah.
but I was just hoping maybe for the people at home, you could just explain the difference between the current model and the SRO model briefly.
Certainly, currently, we had a public safety officer. And what a public safety officer is, it allows the district to hire a district employee with the appropriate training who the city of Lockport would give police powers. So that person effectively would operate, we had two, one at East, one at Central, would effectively operate as a person with police powers. For a variety of reasons, the city of Lockport felt that that model was not something that they could work with any longer because of their, they're the agents that have to give the police powers. So we began working on a school resource officer. So these school resource officers, the difference is they are actually trained Lockport police whose beat, for a lack of a better description, would be East, would be Central. And it provides a very robust connection with the police department because these are sworn police officers and the level of training that they have to be at to be current. They also have to be juvenile officers, so they have to train in juvenile investigations specifically at this age group.
And access to an investigator as well.
Right. We also, in addition, we have, they report to an investigator and there's a coordinator, sort of a third piece, an investigator and a coordinator at the Lockport Police Department, which is really assists in the tools for investigation.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Bless you. All right. So it's already been motioned and roll call.
Shaw,
Yes.
Lewandowski.
Yes.
Navarro,
Yes.
Johnson, Lopez Caniva.
Yes. All right, do I have a motion to approve the miscellaneous hourly pay rates for the 2022-2023 fiscal year?
So moved.
And I can second that. Sure.
This is for Stephanie, I guess.
Mhm.
I went down and was looking at the different rates. I know the majority of them, you bought them to, is it 12 or 13?
It's going from 12, minimum is 12, and it'll be moving to 13.
Okay, but we did, some of them we didn't do, there were some students. We can't put the students, I know you had a comment saying that in the public, they get the minimum wage.
Right.
But-
So you're
so-
saying at the bottom of the schedule where I said NA? Is that what you're talking about?
No.
The students?
There was a few that didn't go to 13 or 12, so I thought.
The ones at the bottom had 925, they were student rates. Do you want to bring that up? If you want to, can you click in this item? No, sorry, go back to the item we're on.
Yeah, if you just
yes.
click there.
And
go.
there should be a link in that item if you can open. Oh, you're in the agenda. Never mind.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought it was live. It's not. So,
It's okay.
Go ahead.
are there anything? There's nothing else below that, right?
No,
13,
it's just that
So
we
I
don't
think
have
what
those
you
rates
mean
in.
is at the bottom of the schedule, we list what used to be the student rates. And what this schedule is recommending is that we basically get rid of student rates, which would mean that two people doing the same job, whether they're a student or whether they're an adult, meaning 18 or older, they get the same rate. So right now, we actually have employees in the custodial maintenance area, in the CWC, where you have two people that are doing the same job, but because they're our student and they're currently enrolled full-time in our school, they get a lower student rate. That kind of thing doesn't exist for corporations, right?
That's what you said.
Yes, because they don't have students. So the reason that I'm showing it that way is that there won't be a differentiation. It'll be a rate for the job. So if you're a CWC receptionist or staff member, you get the CWC staff member rate. If you're a part-time custodial worker, you get the part-time custodial rate, regardless of whether you're our student or whether you're an 18-year-old or a college student. Because this is where we run into some issues. We actually have some of our students, the way the law is written, once they're 18, we can't pay them a student rate anymore. So now you have a student who happens to have a September birthday and turns 18 in September, working with someone who has a June birthday. They're doing the literal same job, and they're getting paid two different rates. They're both students. So we're trying to eliminate that. We think this is a good time to do it, considering it's hard for us to get students because we pay a lower rate. That's, getting rid of that student rate then gives us at least a competitive, a little more competitive rate to keep those students. Because we want our students to work for us,
Yes,
right?
we do.
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
All right, okay. All right, was motion by Dr. Sean, second by Lopez Caniva. All right, roll call.
Lewandowski.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Shaw.
Yes.
Navarro.
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. All right, do I have a motion to approve the 2022 summer curriculum?
So moved.
I'll second it.
It's been motioned by Dr. Shaw and second by Mr. Lewandowski. Any questions? All right, hearing none, roll call.
Johnson.
Yes.
Navarro.
Yes.
Shaw.
Yes.
Lewandowski.
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. All right, do I have a motion to approve the Press 108 Group 2 policies?
Second.
It's been motioned by Ms. Johnson and second by Dr. Shaw. Are there any questions to those? All right, hearing none, roll call.
Shaw.
Yes.
Navarro.
Yes.
Lewandowski.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. Very good, and then you see the announcements there, all those dates.
A lot going on. I
A
would
lot.
add one on Thursdays for the rest of the year, 9:15 to 10 o'clock here at East. Any board member, I encourage board members to join me. I think Mr. Navarro is going to join me Thursday morning. We're doing a walk and talk during Compass, so that parents can see Compass. A number of you have come during that time. Sort of how it lives and breathes. A little bit of it's a little harder to see Compass at Central because of just not as many open spaces. So I've got a nice group of 8 parents that are coming on, at least that I know, then more might come in. 9:15 this Thursday, door 4, and that will be all the Thursdays left in the rest of the school year.
All right, thank you. Do I have a
I'll make a
motion?
motion to adjourn. Was there any other comments?
No, that was it.
We wanted to see you back in
Yeah,
action.
yeah,
I think
that's
Mr. Ives beat you last month.
That's right. All right, is there a second? All right. Okay, all in favor?
Luann.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mr.
night.
Lewandowski. All right, thanks, everyone.
9:12.
Thank you.
Thank you.